The great chamber was silent as Ambassador Elena Vance walked toward the lowest platform in the room. Her footsteps echoed against the crystal floor. Above her, 200 alien species watched from their elevated seats. They looked down at her like gods looking at an insect. This was the Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime. Humanity had been a member of the Galactic Union for 94 years. But they were not equals. They had never been equals. Earth held the status of probationary species, the lowest rank in the Union. And today, Elena hoped to change that. She reached her platform and stood tall. Her gray suit was simple compared to the flowing robes and glowing garments of the alien delegates. The Volanthi representatives shimmered with soft blue light from their skin. The insect-like Kethari clicked their mandibles and watched her with compound eyes. And high above everyone else sat the Dominari, the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Their leader, High Arbiter Velosh, looked ancient. His gray skin was marked with deep lines, and his 4 eyes showed nothing but cold judgment. Elena took a breath and began to speak. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she said, "I come before you today to request that humanity be elevated to contributing member status." A soft murmur passed through the chamber. Some of the delegates shifted in their seats. Others made sounds that might have been laughter. Elena continued. "For 94 years, Earth has followed every rule of the Union. We have paid every tax and tariff. We have opened our doors to your inspectors. We have limited our technology as you demanded. We have given territory in our own solar system to Union bases." She pulled up a holographic display showing charts and numbers. "Our scientists have helped cure diseases on 17 different worlds. Our engineers maintain 30% of the Union's communication network. Our workers serve on stations across the galaxy. We have given everything that was asked of us." She paused and looked up at the assembled delegates. "We ask only to be treated as equals, as partners, as friends." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a sound came from the highest platform. It was a dry, rasping noise. High Arbiter Velosh was laughing. "The human wishes to sit among architects," Velosh said. His voice was like sand scraping against stone. "But she has not yet proven her species can build a stable house." More laughter spread through the chamber. The Kethari released a chemical smell that meant amusement. The Volanthi dimmed their glow in a gesture of dismissal. Elena felt her face grow warm, but she kept her expression calm. "High Arbiter, I have shown you our record. 94 years without a single violation. 94 years of service and contribution." "Service?" Velosh leaned forward. "A servant does not become a master simply because they have carried plates without dropping them. Your species is young. You have existed for the blink of an eye compared to us. The Dominari walked among the stars when your ancestors were still afraid of lightning." "With respect," Elena said, "age alone does not determine worth." The chamber went quiet. No one spoke to Velosh that way. The High Arbiter's 4 eyes narrowed. He touched a control on his chair, and a recording began to play. It was an old audio file, filled with static and noise. Elena recognized it immediately. It was from humanity's first contact with the Union, over a century ago. The recording played the panicked voices of human military officers. They were shouting, confused, terrified by the alien ships appearing in Earth's sky. One voice was praying. Another was crying. Velosh let the recording play for a long moment. Then he stopped it. "This is what you were," he said. "Frightened children screaming at shadows. And you believe 94 years is enough to change what you are? You believe you are ready to stand beside civilizations that have existed for millions of years." Elena's hands trembled slightly at her sides, but her voice remained steady. "Every species was young once, High Arbiter. Even the Dominari." "Yes," Velosh agreed. but we proved ourselves through 10,000 years of patience and growth. You have proven only that you can follow instructions." He waved one long-fingered hand. "I move that we deny the human petition and extend their probationary period by 50 additional years." The vote was quick. 194 species voted against humanity. Only 6 voted in favor, small civilizations that had themselves been mocked and dismissed. Elena stood perfectly, still as the numbers appeared on the display. 50 more years. Her children would grow old before humanity was even considered for equality again. Her grandchildren might still be fighting this same battle. Velosh smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. "Return to your little world, human. Learn patience. Perhaps in another century, your descendants will be ready to try again." Elena bowed. It was a precise formal bow, exactly as protocol demanded. Her face showed nothing. No anger, no sadness, no shame. "The Council's wisdom is noted," she said. Her voice was perfectly calm. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. Every eye watched her go. Some of the delegates whispered to each other. A few more laughed. Elena did not look back. She did not hurry. She walked with the same steady pace she had used to enter. But as she passed through the great doors, she raised her hand to the small communication device in her ear. She pressed it once. "Prometheus protocol," she said quietly. "Activate." Somewhere far away, on Earth and on hidden stations throughout the solar system, lights began to turn on in rooms that had been dark for decades. Computers woke up. Encrypted files opened. Men and women who had waited their entire lives for this moment received a simple message on their screens. It read, "The time has come." Behind her, the council chamber erupted in more laughter. The delegates congratulated each other on putting the humans in their place. Velosh accepted praise from his fellow Dominari for his wisdom. None of them noticed that Elena Vance was smiling. It was not a warm smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting 94 years for this exact moment. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. The galaxy thought humanity was afraid. The galaxy thought humanity had spent a century learning to be good servants. The galaxy was wrong, and very soon, the galaxy would learn just how wrong it had been. Elena stepped into her shuttle and closed her eyes. Her hands were steady now. Her heart was calm. "Take me home," she told the pilot. "We have work to do." The shuttle lifted off from Nexus Prime and turned toward the distant light of Earth's sun. Behind it, the greatest powers in the galaxy continued to laugh at the foolish little humans. They would not be laughing for long. The emergency meeting began at midnight in Geneva. The Great Hall of the United Earth Council was filled with the most powerful leaders on the planet. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists sat in curved rows facing a central stage. The room was completely sealed. For the first time in 94 years, no alien listening devices recorded what happened inside. Secretary General Marcus Chen stood at the podium. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. But tonight, those eyes were bright with something that looked almost like hope. "You have all received Ambassador Vance's message," he said. "The Council has rejected our petition. They have extended our probationary status by another 50 years. They laughed at us." Angry murmurs filled the room. Some leaders shook their heads. Others clenched their fists. Marcus raised his hand for silence. "I know many of you feel rage. I feel it too. But tonight, I am not here to talk about anger. I am here to talk about truth." He pressed a button and the lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared above the stage, showing images that made several people gasp. "For 94 years, we have followed every rule the Union gave us. Marcus said. "We have limited our technology. We have accepted their inspections. We have pretended to be weak." He paused. "We were never weak." The holographic display changed to show massive shipyards hidden inside asteroids, laboratories built beneath the ocean floor, research stations on the dark side of the moon, invisible to Union sensors. "This is Project Prometheus," Marcus continued. "It began the same year we joined the Union. Our grandparents started it. Our parents continued it. And we have finished it." The images showed sleek warships, unlike anything the Union had ever seen. They showed energy weapons that made Union technology look like toys. They showed medical machines that could cure diseases the Union considered impossible to treat. "For almost a century, our best scientists worked in secret," Marcus explained. "Every breakthrough we made, we hid. Every discovery, we buried. The Union thought they were watching everything we did. They saw only what we wanted them to see." An old general in the front row stood up. His name was Robert Hayes, and he had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. "How many ships do we have?" 312 combat vessels, Marcus answered, "hidden in the Oort cloud at the edge of our solar system. Each one is faster and more powerful than anything in the Union fleet." Another leader raised her hand. "What about our energy situation?" "The Union controls our power supplies." Marcus smiled slightly. "We have developed fusion reactors that produce 10 times the energy of Union-approved systems. We also have prototype devices based on principles the Union has not even discovered yet. We do not need their power. We never did." The room was completely silent now. Everyone understood what this meant. For 94 years, humanity had been playing a role. They had acted weak while growing strong. They had accepted insults while building weapons. They had bowed their heads while preparing to stand tall. "The question before us tonight is simple," Marcus said. "Do we continue to play this role? Do we spend another 50 years, another century, begging for scraps of respect? Or do we show the galaxy who we really are?" The debate lasted 3 hours. Some argued for caution. They worried about war, about retaliation, about the unknown dangers of challenging the established order. Others argued for action. They spoke of dignity, of freedom, of the right to stand as equals. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Every single leader chose to stand. At exactly 6 o'clock the next morning. Every communication channel in the galaxy received the same message. It was broadcast on Union frequencies, on emergency channels, on military networks, and on public entertainment systems. Trillions of beings across 1,000 worlds heard Ambassador Elena Vance speak. Her voice was calm and clear. "To all members of the Galactic Union, this is Ambassador Elena Vance, speaking on behalf of the United Earth Government." She paused for just a moment. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and partnerships with the Galactic Union. We reject all terms previously imposed upon us. We cancel all trade agreements. We take back all territorial claims we were forced to give up. All Union personnel have 72 hours to leave the Sol system. After that time, any Union vessel entering our space will be considered hostile." Across the galaxy, alien officials scrambled to respond. Confusion spread through government buildings and military headquarters. No one could believe what they were hearing. Elena continued. "For 94 years, we asked for nothing but respect. We received only mockery. We asked for partnership. We received only contempt. We will ask no more." On Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Velosh watched the broadcast from his private chamber. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. Then he laughed. "Foolish children," he said to his advisors. "They are throwing a tantrum because we hurt their feelings. Let them sulk in their little system. Within a year, they will come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. His advisors nodded in agreement. The Dominari had ruled the galaxy for millions of years. They had seen younger species try to resist before. It always ended the same way. But one young Dominari advisor, a female named Shalvara, did not laugh. She had studied human history. She knew about their wars, their struggles, their stubborn refusal to surrender even when all hope seemed lost. "High Arbiter," she said quietly. "Perhaps we should investigate before we dismiss them." Velosh waved his hand. "There is nothing to investigate. They are humans. They have no real technology, no real military, no real power. This is all noise and nothing more." Shalvara bowed and said nothing else. But she did not believe him. On Earth, celebrations began in the streets. People who had lived their entire lives under Union restrictions danced and cheered. They did not know about Project Prometheus. They did not know about the secret weapons or hidden ships. They knew only that their leaders had finally stood up for them. In Geneva, Marcus Chan watched the celebrations on his screen. Elena Vance stood beside him. "They think this is the end," she said quietly. "They think we have simply thrown away our future in a moment of anger." Marcus nodded. "Let them think that. Let them underestimate us one more time." Elena looked out the window at the cheering crowds below. "My grandmother lived her whole life under Union rules. She died before she could see this day. My mother spent her career pretending to be less than she was. She died waiting for this moment." She turned to face Marcus. Her eyes were dry, but there was steel in her voice. "I will not die waiting, and neither will any human after me." Marcus put his hand on her shoulder. "The hard part is coming. They will send ships. They will threaten us. They will try to make an example of us." Elena smiled that cold, patient smile again. "Let them come. We have been preparing for this day since before I was born. Let them see what humanity can do when we stop pretending." Outside, the sun was rising over Geneva. It was a new day. The first day of humanity's true future. Far away, in the cold darkness at the edge of the solar system, 312 warships began powering up their engines. Their crews, men and women who had trained in secret for years, took their positions. They were ready. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for the last time. 3 months passed, and the galaxy stopped laughing. It started in the first week. The Union Council decided to send a peacekeeping fleet to Sol System. 20 warships, commanded by a veteran Cathari admiral named Threxel. The mission was simple. Enter human space, destroy a few orbital stations, and force the humans to surrender. Admiral Threxel was confident. His ships had won 100 battles. His crews were experienced warriors. The humans had no real military. Everyone knew that the fleet arrived at the edge of Sol System and immediately detected something strange. Their sensors showed a defensive line of human vessels. But that was impossible. The humans did not have warships. Threxel ordered his fleet forward. "They are probably cargo ships," he told his officers. "Paint it to look scary. This will be over quickly." It was over quickly, but not the way Threxel expected. The human ships moved faster than anything the Admiral had ever seen. They appeared and disappeared, striking from angles his tactical computers could not predict. Human weapons punched through Union shields like they were made of paper. In less than 2 hours, 6 Union vessels were destroyed. The rest fled, their engines pushed to maximum speed. Admiral Threxel survived, but he never commanded another fleet. His report to the council was only 3 words long. They were ready. The news spread across the galaxy. The Union tried to hide it, but too many people had seen the retreating ships. Too many families had lost soldiers. The whispers began. The humans had weapons. Real weapons. Powerful weapons. Where had they come from? By the 3rd week, the economic problems began. Union officials noticed that communication networks were failing across multiple sectors. Relay stations that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly needed repairs. The reason was simple. Human engineers had maintained those stations. Human workers had kept them running. Now those humans were gone, called back to Earth, and no one else knew how to fix what they had fixed. On the Volanti homeworld, factories stopped producing. Volanti managers discovered that their supply chains depended on human cargo pilots who no longer made deliveries. Medicines ran short. Food shipments were delayed. Prices began to rise. The Cathari faced similar problems. Their financial systems used software that human programmers had designed. Without updates and maintenance, errors began to multiply. Banks lost records. Transactions failed. The economy shook, but the worst was yet to come. In the 8th week, a plague broke out on a Volanti agricultural colony. It was a disease that had been dormant for centuries, suddenly awakened by changing climate conditions. The colony had no doctors capable of treating it. They needed help. The Volanti government sent an emergency request to the Union Medical Council. They needed specialists, researchers, experts who understood this type of disease. The Medical Council checked their records and discovered a terrible truth. The best researchers on this disease were humans. Human scientists had spent decades studying similar conditions. Human doctors had developed treatments that no one else had matched. A Volanti ambassador traveled to Earth to ask for help. She was a proud being, used to being treated with respect and fear. But she went anyway, because her people were dying. Elena Vance met her in Geneva. The Volanti ambassador expected anger, demands, humiliation. Instead, Elena simply listened. "Your council voted against us," Elena said when the ambassador finished speaking. "Your representatives laughed when we asked for equality. Your species called us primitives and children." The ambassador lowered her glowing head. "Yes, we did." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "We will help your colony. Our doctors will come. Our medicines will be provided. We will save your people." The ambassador looked up in surprise. "You will help us? After everything?" "We are not like you," Elena said softly. "We do not let innocent people die because their leaders were cruel to us. But understand this. We help because we choose to, not because we must, not because you can force us, because helping others is who we are." Human medical ships arrived at the Volanti colony within days. They brought doctors, equipment, and medicines that worked faster than anyone expected. The plague was contained. Thousands of lives were saved. The Volanti people never forgot. By the 12th week, everything had changed. The Union was fracturing. Smaller species, races who had also suffered under Dominari arrogance, began reaching out to Earth. They came in secret, afraid of Union punishment. They came offering friendship and trade. The Taravi were first. They were a peaceful species who had been used as servants by the elder races for centuries. Their ambassador met with Secretary General Marcus Chen and wept when he offered them a trade agreement with fair terms. "No one has ever treated us as equals," the Taravi ambassador said. "We did not know it was possible." "It is possible," Marcus told him. "It is how things should have always been." More species followed. The Nelith, masters of agricultural science. The Drovan, who built the most beautiful ships in the galaxy. The Vishari, whose philosophers asked questions that even the Dominari could not answer. One by one, they came to Earth. Admiral Yuki Tanaka watched the diplomatic ships arrive from her command center on Luna. She was the commander of Earth's defense fleet. A small woman with sharp eyes and a quiet voice. Her grandmother had died during a Union inspection 30 years ago. The inspectors had been looking for illegal technology. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. But they had been rough, violent, and careless. An old woman had been pushed. She had fallen. She had not gotten up. The Union had sent a letter expressing regret for any inconvenience. Yuki kept that letter in her desk. She read it sometimes when she needed to remember why they were fighting, but she did not fight with hate. She fought with patience. She fought with skill. She protected her people and welcomed those who came seeking peace. On Nexus Prime, High Arbiter Velosh finally stopped laughing. The reports on his desk told a story he did not want to believe. The humans were building alliances. The Union was losing members. The economy was stumbling. The military had been humiliated. How? He asked his advisors. They were nothing. They had nothing. How is this possible? Shalvora, the young advisor who had warned him months ago, stepped forward. They were never nothing, High Arbiter. We simply never looked closely enough to see what they were. Velosh stared at her. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he did not recognize. It was fear. In Geneva. A new monument was being built in the central plaza. It showed a human hand, open and extended in greeting. But beneath the hand, carved in stone, were words that every visitor could read. We remember every insult. We return every kindness. The galaxy was learning what those words meant. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Union was dying, not from human attacks. Earth had not fired a single offensive weapon, not from invasion. Human ships had never crossed into Union territory. The Union was dying from something far worse than war. It was dying from truth. For millions of years, the elder species had told themselves a story. They were superior. They were wise. They were the rightful rulers of the galaxy. Younger species were children who needed guidance, restrictions, and control. The humans had proven that story was a lie. 17 species officially left the Union in the same month. They did not do it quietly. They made public announcements explaining why. They spoke of centuries of insults, of unfair rules, of resources taken and respect denied. We were told we were too young, said the Nelith ambassador in her farewell speech. We were told we were not ready. But the humans showed us that readiness is not given by the powerful. It is taken by the brave. The Union tried to respond with threats. Military ships moved toward the systems of departing species. But the threats were empty. The Union fleet had already been humiliated once. No admiral wanted to test the human defenses again, and now the departing species had. Human weapons. Earth had begun sharing technology with its new allies. Not as gifts, but as fair trades. Human fusion reactors powered Taravi cities. Human medical equipment filled Drovan hospitals. Human communication systems connected the Vishari with worlds they had never been able to reach before. A new power was forming. They called it the Coalition of Free Worlds. On Earth, Secretary General Marcus Chun addressed the founding ceremony. Representatives from 32 species filled the Great Hall in Geneva. For the first time in history, humans were not at the lowest platform. There were no platforms at all. Every delegation sat at the same level. We do not seek to replace one empire with another, Marcus said. We do not want to rule anyone. We ask only for cooperation between equals, respect between partners, friendship between peoples. He looked around the room at the alien faces watching him. The old order told you that some species are naturally superior, that some races deserve to command while others must obey. We reject that lie. Every civilization has value. Every species has something to contribute. Together, we can build something better than anything that came before. The applause lasted for 10 minutes, but not everyone was celebrating. On the Dominari homeworld, civil war was brewing. Younger Dominari had grown up believing they were the greatest species in the galaxy. Now they watched their economy crumble. They watched their allies abandon them. They watched small, young, inferior races thrive while Dominari power faded. How did this happen? They demanded. Why did our leaders provoke this catastrophe? High Arbiter Velosh faced angry crowds for the first time in his life. Protesters gathered outside his palace. They held signs demanding answers. Some called for his removal. Some called for worse. His advisors urged him to make peace with the humans, to apologize, to negotiate. But Velosh was old, and he was proud, and he could not accept that he had been wrong. We are Dominari, he told his council. We do not bow to younger races. We do not apologize to children. This will pass. The humans will fail. They always fail. We simply need to wait. But Shelvera, his young advisor, had stopped waiting. She sent a secret message to Earth. She asked to speak with Ambassador Elena Vance. She asked for a meeting, private and unofficial. She asked for a chance to build a bridge. Elena agreed. They met on a neutral station, far from Dominari space. Shelvera was nervous. She had never spoken to a human before. She had grown up believing humans were primitive, emotional, dangerous. The woman who greeted her was none of those things. Elena Vance was calm and polite. She offered tea, a human custom of hospitality. She listened without interrupting. I represent a group of Dominari who believe change is necessary, Shelvera explained. We do not agree with Velosh. We do not believe younger species should be treated as servants. We want to find a new path. Elena studied her carefully. Your people laughed at us. Your leaders called us children. Your votes kept us trapped for nearly a century. Yes, Shelvera admitted. And I am sorry. But I was not alive when those decisions were made. My generation inherited a system we did not create. Some of us want to change it. Change is difficult, Elena said, especially for those who have held power for so long. Shelvera nodded. That is why we need help. Not military help. Not weapons. We need to show our people that cooperation is possible. That the old ways are not the only ways. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled slightly. Do you know what humans learned from being treated badly? We learned that cruelty creates enemies. We learned that kindness creates allies. We learned that the species who helps others when they are weak will have friends when they need help themselves. She reached across the table and touched Shelvera's hand. The Dominari flinched at the contact, then relaxed. We will not punish all Dominari for the sins of their leaders, Elena said. We will work with anyone who approaches us honestly. But understand this. We will never again accept being treated as less than equals. That is not negotiable. I understand, Shelvera said. I would not ask you to. When Shelvera returned to the Dominari homeworld, she brought something with her. It was a small package containing human food, human music, and human literature. Simple gifts meant to show that humanity did not hate her people. She shared these gifts with other young Dominari. They tasted strange fruits. They listened to strange songs. They read stories about humans who had suffered and struggled and survived. Something began to change in Dominari society. Not quickly, not easily, but something shifted. The old leaders still held power, but their voices grew weaker. The young began asking questions that had been forbidden for generations. Why did they need enemies? Why could they not share instead of dominate? Why did they fear what they did not understand? On Earth, human children learned about the galaxy in schools that taught cooperation instead of fear. They learned about Volanthi art and Taravi philosophy and Drovan engineering. They were told that different did not mean dangerous. In the Coalition Capitol building in Geneva, Elena Vance stood at a window and watched ships from a dozen species landing at the spaceport. Trading vessels, diplomatic shuttles, tourist cruisers. Admiral Tanaka joined her by the window. The reports say Velosh is losing support, Tanaka said. His government might fall within the year. Elena nodded but did not smile. Velosh is not the disease. He is only a symptom. The real disease is the belief that some species are naturally better than others. That disease has infected the galaxy for millions of years. It will take generations to cure. But we are making progress, Tanaka said. Yes. Elena finally allowed herself a small smile. We are. And that is enough for now. Outside, the sun set over Geneva, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Human and alien workers walked together toward their homes. Children played in parks where, just a few years ago, Union soldiers had patrolled. The future was uncertain. Challenges remained. But for the first time in nearly a century, humanity faced those challenges standing tall. They had been mocked and dismissed. They had been underestimated and ignored, that they had proven everyone wrong, and they were just getting started. 5 years had changed everything. Secretary General Elena Vance stood on the observation deck of Prometheus Station, the largest structure humanity had ever built. It floated in space between 3 star systems, a symbol of cooperation that could be seen from 100 worlds. Ships from 50 different species came and went through its massive docking bays. Trade goods, diplomats, tourists, and dreamers all passed through its halls. Elena was older now. Gray streaked her dark hair. Lines marked her face. But her eyes were bright, and her step was steady. Behind her, the door opened. Admiral Yuki Tanaka entered, wearing her dress uniform for the celebration that would begin in a few hours. The Dominari delegation has arrived, Tanaka reported. Shalvara is with them. Elena turned from the window. How do they seem? Nervous, hopeful. Tanaka paused. It is strange to see Dominari look hopeful. Elena smiled. Not so strange anymore. The old Galactic Union still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Only 12 species remained members, mostly those too proud or too stubborn to admit the old ways had failed. They controlled a small section of the galaxy and traded with no one. Their economy was weak. Their influence was gone. High Arbiter Velosh had died 2 years ago. Not from violence. Not from war. He had simply grown old and tired and broken by the knowledge that everything he believed had been wrong. His final words, according to those who were present, had been a question. How did we lose to them? No one had answered him. There was no answer that would have satisfied him. The coalition of free worlds had grown to include 53 species. It was not a government. It did not have an army that conquered or a bureaucracy that controlled. It was simply an agreement that cooperation was better than domination. That respect was better than contempt, that the universe was large enough for everyone. Human. Ships explored regions of space that the Union had never dared to enter. Human scientists collaborated with researchers from every coalition member. Human artists shared their music and stories with audiences across the galaxy. Human philosophers debated with Vashari, thinkers about the meaning of existence, and human doctors still answered calls for help, no matter who made them. Just last month, a plague had broken out on a Union world. The Union government had refused to ask the coalition for help. Their pride would not allow it. But someone on that world had sent a private message to Earth, begging for assistance. Human medical ships had arrived within days. They had not asked for payment. They had not demanded political concessions. They had simply helped because that was what humans did. The Union government had been furious. But the people of that world remembered. They remembered who had come when they needed help. They remembered who had turned away. More Union members were talking about leaving. It was only a matter of time. The celebration that evening was held in the main hall of Prometheus Station. Thousands of beings filled the space. The Lanthi shimmered beside Taravi. Kethari traded goods with Drovan merchants. Nelith farmers shared food with human chefs. The air was filled with dozens of languages, dozens of scents, dozens of colors. Elena gave a short speech welcoming everyone. She spoke of cooperation and hope and the hard work still ahead. She kept her words simple because she knew that actions mattered more than speeches. After the formal events ended, Elena walked through the crowd, greeting old friends and meeting new ones. That was when she noticed a young Dominari standing alone near one of the windows. He was barely more than a student, his skin still smooth and unmarked by age. Elena approached him. "Are you enjoying the celebration?" The young Dominari startled. He clearly had not expected the Secretary General to speak to him directly. Yes, it is wonderful. I have never seen anything like this." "Your first time off the Dominari homeworld?" He nodded. "Shalvara brought me. She said I needed to see for myself what the galaxy could be." Elena smiled. "Shalvara is wise. What do you think so far?" The young Dominari was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had clearly been burning inside him. "Secretary General, I must know something. When we mocked you, when we called you people primitive and afraid, when we laughed at your pain, did you hate us?" Elena looked at him. She thought about the council chamber where she had stood so many years ago. She thought about Vilash Cyril's smile and the laughter that had echoed through the hall. She thought about her grandmother, who had died under Union rule. She thought about the generations of humans who had pretended to be weak while building strength in secret. She thought about all the reasons she had to hate. "No," she said finally. "We did not hate you. How?" The young Dominari asked. "After everything that was done to your people? How could you not hate?" Elena turned to look out the window. Stars filled the darkness, countless and beautiful. Ships moved between them, carrying people of every species toward futures they had never imagined possible. "Hate is a chain," she said quietly. "When you hate someone, you tie yourself to them. You give them power over your thoughts, your feelings, your choices. We refuse to give you that power." She turned back to face him. "We did not want revenge. We did not want to destroy you. We simply wanted to stop carrying the weight of your contempt. We wanted to walk our own path. And when we finally did, we discovered that the path was wide enough for everyone." The young Dominari's eyes were wet. "I am sorry. For what my people did? For what my ancestors did. I know I cannot undo it, but I am sorry." Elena reached out and put her hand on his shoulder. "The past cannot be changed, but the future is unwritten. What your ancestors did is not your fault. What you do with your life is your choice." She smiled warmly. "Make good choices. Build something better. That is the only apology the universe needs." She left him standing by the window and returned to the celebration. But she glanced back once and saw that he was still looking at the stars. Later that night, when the crowds had gone and the station was quiet, Elena returned to the observation deck alone. She stood in the darkness and watched the lights of distant ships moving through space. Marcus Chun had died 3 years ago. He had lived long enough to see the coalition established, to see humanity take its place among the stars as equals. His last words had been simple. "We did it, Elena. We actually did it." Admiral Tanaka would retire next year. She had trained a new generation of defenders who had never known life under Union rule. They would protect humanity's future without carrying the scars of the past. And Elena herself was growing old. She had spent her life fighting for a dream that her grandmother had only imagined. Now that dream was real. She thought about what she would tell the history books if they asked her how humanity had won. They had won by refusing to become what their enemies expected. They had been mocked, so they built in secret. They had been underestimated, so they planned for every possibility. They had been offered cruelty, so they returned kindness. They had taken every insult and transformed it into strength. They had taken every obstacle and made it a stepping stone. They had taken a century of darkness and emerged into light. The galaxy had laughed at them once. Now the galaxy learned from them. Elena smiled and turned away from the window. Tomorrow there would be more work to do, more treaties to negotiate, more problems to solve, more bridges to build. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of peace. A moment to remember everyone who had worked and sacrificed so that this night could exist. A moment to be grateful for the future they had created together. Humanity had been mocked at the Council. Humanity had ended all treaties overnight, and humanity had proven, once and for all, that the species everyone had dismissed as children were the ones who would inherit the stars. Elena walked back toward her quarters, her footsteps echoing softly in the empty corridor. Behind her, through the observation windows, the universe stretched out in infinite possibility. The story of humanity was only beginning.